Resolving things into thoughts. Interesting. One of the ways that we do this, of course, is by using spiritual mind treatment, and that's our method of turning current circumstances into a thought that can then be transformed, transmuted, and create something new. So one of the things and one of the questions that's most frequently asked about the science of mind, and this comes from the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes wrote, one of the questions most frequently asked about the science of mind is, are prayers and treatments identical? And the answer to this question is both yes and no. If one prays their prayer and it is a recognition of Spirit's omniscience, omnipotence, and presence, and a realization of our unity with Spirit, then the prayer is a spiritual mind treatment. However, if on the other hand, one is holding to the viewpoint that God is some far-off being whom they would approach with doubt in their thought, wondering if by some good luck they may be able to placate God or persuade God of the wisdom of one's request, then there is little similarity between prayer and treatment. And that can be found on page 149 of the Science of Mind. So treatment is a specific thing. It's, if you're treating someone, what you're doing is you're treating for them to realize their full potential, to acknowledge their oneness with the divine, to accept and know that there is only this one thing going on. And so when we're treating, pardon me, excuse me, the treatment is a very specific thing. So for example, if you're treating somebody who has a belief in disease, for example, let's say they have some kind of disease like, cancer or pneumonia or whatever, you're making your word operate in such a way as to neutralize the belief. Now, we're not saying that the illness is not there. We're not saying that. But as we're treating, we never focus on a problem. We always focus on that which we truly desire. So when we're treating for someone about an illness or whatever, what we want to do is neutralize the belief in the disease. And what we want to remember is that a disease of itself is not an entity, okay? It has no power of its own. So we want to just pay attention to that. And each time we do treatment, we want to do everything necessary to cover the case. So when you resolve things into thoughts, excuse me, my apologies. When we're resolving things into thoughts, we're taking everything, bodies, people, objects, illness, finances, all things, right? And what we're doing is we're resolving everything into a thought. And now we know that disease or any challenge we might be facing is neither person, place, nor thing. It has no location, it does not belong to anyone, cannot operate through anyone, and is not believed in by anyone. Know that it is a false belief, a false image with no power. Know that the whole thing is mental, then mentally dissolve it. And you can find this on page 158 of the Science of Mind. When you resolve things into thoughts, then we can dissolve it. And he talks on page 159, healing is not creating a perfect body or perfect idea. It is revealing an idea which is already perfect. Healing is not a process, it is a revelation. Okay, so all of those great Science of Mind terms from Ernest Holmes, what I've learned over the years in doing spiritual mind treatment is that it is probably the most powerful form that a prayer could take. And so I refer to it as treatment because I like the idea of I'm treating my mind to know something bigger, brighter, better. I'm treating my mind so that I may awaken to a bigger vision and possibility for life. So I'm not treating something out there, I'm treating something in here, okay? And if I'm treating for you, I'm still treating myself. See, when we do treatment together, we connect, okay? Your mind and my mind. We acknowledge, because you've requested the treatment, you have acknowledged that there's going to be some shift or change. You've told me what it is that you think you would like to experience and how that would feel emotionally. And those are the things that make up my treatment. And as I'm treating, what we're doing is we're treating the subjective mind, right? That's where we're one. We're connected at the subjective level. That's where the universe is connected to, at the subjective level. So if we can switch a belief in poverty to a belief in possibility, we've probably made a good change. If we can believe the belief of perfect health rather than disease, again, we can begin to manifest that form of well-being. And so let me just share with you a couple of treatments I've done in the past. My apologies. This throat is just weird today. Somebody said I should stop eating yogurt, so maybe that's what I got to do. Anyway, back to this. So the idea that of treatment, I've had a number of people over the years come to me for treatment. And when we treat together, I always want to know what it is you truly want, and also how you would feel emotionally if you had it. You see, the emotions, we can feel them right now. You know, I could tell you a joke and you'd start laughing, even though you're having a bad day. You might still laugh because it shifts the energy, right? So that's what treatment does, shifts the energy. So I remember years ago, I was working in real estate at the time in Calgary, and I was part of a team that was selling a new project in the west end of the town. And we were in a meeting one Thursday morning, and the head of our team didn't show up. We're all kind of looking around, and then one of the guys comments that he had had a massive heart attack the night before and was in the ICU. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to visit him. As soon as we left the meeting, I drove over to the hospital, went up to the ICU and walked into his room and, asked him how he was feeling, and then asked him two things. First off, would you like me to do this thing that I do, which can be quite healing? And he went, yes. I said, well, tell me what you want and how you'd feel if you had it. So he gave me that information, and I proceeded to do treatment. So that was on the Thursday. On the Monday, I went to visit him, and he said they had done stress test and they had done the ECG. And I said, awesome. And I gave him a copy of Deepak Chopra's 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And so he promised to read it. Now, they weren't able to do the angiogram. The machine was being serviced, it didn't work. And so he was waiting for that. Meanwhile, they did the other tests, and they could see that he'd had a pretty major cardiac incident. So on the Wednesday night, so this is a week later now, Wednesday night, the machine is back up and working. And because his condition is so critical, they bump him up to the front of the list to get the first angiogram. They send him to the other hospital. They do the angiogram. The cardiologist looks at him and said, why are you here? And he goes, oh, they tell me I'm really sick. And he goes, you don't have the heart of a 46-year-old man. You have the heart of a 16-year-old boy. Why are you here? So he gets returned to the other hospital, and the cardiologists there are looking at the results and shaking their heads going, this can't be, this can't be. And he just said to them, I'm going home. And then he called me up and said, it's all gone, teach me. And so we spent the next couple of months before I started my first ministry in Vernon, BC. He and I spent time together, and I taught him how to meditate and how to do treatment. Treatment is a really simple, easy process, but it's about getting the mind clear, because if I'm not clear that I am created perfect, whole, and complete. If I'm not clear that the essence of me is perfect, whole, and complete, then what happens is I go into treatment and I start talking about a disease, or I start talking about a lack of funds or a bad relationship. Well, wherever you focus your attention, that is what expands and grows. Where is your attention? Yeah, where is your attention? So again, on 159, Ernest Holmes says, healing is not creating a perfect body or perfect idea. It is revealing an idea which is already perfect. So if we're created perfect, whole, and complete, if we can really anchor that idea in our consciousness, what happens is we begin to move through life with a greater sense of joy and freedom and peacefulness, a lot of love happening. Things get really good, really, really good. All right, another story. Dear friend of mine was diagnosed with HIV, and it expanded and grew and became full-blown AIDS. And we talked one day, and I said, oh, we hadn't talked for a while. We need to get together for lunch. I hadn't seen him in, at least 6 months. So we get together. I pick him up at the hospital, and I realize we ain't going for lunch. He can barely walk to my car. He's lost so much weight that, he looks like he could wither away in a windstorm. So I get him home and ask him what he would like for treatment. And he said, I just feel like I really want to live. For the first time, I want to live. He said, I've never been afraid of dying, but I've always been afraid of living. But this disease has helped me to see the love that surrounds me and the beauty of the people around me. And I want to live. So we did treatment. And I just said to him again, there's this thing that I do. Would you like me to do it with you? And he was all in. So we did treatment together. I left him. As I was driving out, I thought, oh my gosh, this man cannot look after himself. He's alone in his apartment. It won't work. So I phone a good friend of ours, and she comes and picks him up the next day, takes him to her place. He stays there for the next 2 weeks. I go to visit, and he's looking amazing. He's put on about 18 pounds. He's moving around, he's chatting, he's happy, he's got energy. It was like a transformation that was next to unbelievable. And a few months later, he was back to work. And then when they tested him in August, they couldn't find the disease. Spiritual mind treatment is a powerful tool that shifts and resolves things into thoughts. And if you really explore, pardon me, if you really explore the idea of things, you know where things came from. Somebody had an idea and then built a thing. Somebody had an idea and built a thing. That's all that's happening. So when we look at anything, if we can look at whatever's going on and resolve it into a positive, powerful, and productive thought, we can turn around and begin to live from that new space. Spiritual mind treatment will get us there. Spiritual mind treatment will get us there. And the way it's done is simple. The first step in treatment is recognition. And what are we recognizing? The omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence of spirit. Right? There's one power, as Daniel Nahmod sang. There is one power. It doesn't matter what you name it. There's one power. And when we're doing our treatments and stuff, we're operating within that one power. And so our first step is to acknowledge that it is there. There is one power. It is omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. So when we've anchored that idea and we begin to feel that sense of oneness with spirit, we move on to the second step of treatment, which is unification. I am one with God. So if this spiritual universe is everywhere present. It's right here. It's right here. It's not above me or below me or around me. It is being me. It is the cells of my body, the activity of my mind. It is being me. So I want to really unify with that power. And in doing that, there's a shift that takes place that allows me to speak with a sense of authority. And then we move into our declaration. That time in our treatment where we go, this is it. I am health, I am wealth, I am love, I am peace, I am joy. We can speak it in the I am because we really want to own whatever it is that we're saying. So whatever the situation is, we want to move into that place of I am the divine fully expressing in this moment, and I have within me the power, the presence, the life source to do what needs to be done. All right? So we declare what it is that we want and how we'd feel if we had it. From there, we move into gratitude. I am grateful. I am grateful for everything I said in the declaration. I am grateful for well-being. I'm grateful for prosperity. I'm grateful for health. And then we move into the release. I let go, I let it be, and so it is. So as we move through those steps, our mind is being cleared of our thoughts of limitation and, I'm less than or not enough or whatever it is that I got going on. I want to shift that. And so that's what we're doing, is we're making that shift. So I invite you, if you've never taken classes, consider taking class. If you are really curious about spiritual mind treatment, you can call myself or Sharon. You can call Nick, and we can do treatment with you. We're happy to do treatment with you. So just know that there is a way, and it's a really easy thing to learn. And we teach it in our classes. So take the science mind and take it as deep as you can, and just know what a marvelous life you are going to create. Because that's what's happening. When we change thoughts, when we change things into thoughts, what we end up with is a beautiful life, something wonderful to move forward. So this came out of this week's reading. When we send the readings out every day, I will be talking about them on Sunday. And this week's reading that I'm referring to is Resolve Things into Thoughts. And this is written, of course, by Ernest Holmes. Namaste. All righty, well, we have our opportunity. I invite you to share your time, your talent, your treasure, and this is a time when you can share your treasure with the Universal Joy Center. We are a charitable organization, and we do issue charitable donation receipts at the end of each year. And so I invite you to give generously to this idea. We are moving in the direction of expansion. We are looking to create a really great online experience, and then to add to that, our in-person experience as well will be coming at some time in the near future. So we invite you to really participate and share what you can so that this center can continue to grow and expand. Let us join together with the abundance affirmation. Together, please. As I give, so I receive. My good now flows to me in a steady, unbroken, ever-increasing stream of success, happiness, and abundance. I am blessed. Blessings abound for all life everywhere. I am grateful. And so it is. And Of course, there are a few different ways that you can give. We are a charitable organization, as I mentioned before, so you can scan this QR code and make your donation that way. Or you can send an e-transfer to admin@ujoyc.ca. You can click donate on our website, ujoyc.ca, ujoyc.ca. And of course, you can always mail a check or drop off cash at 28 Sir Raymond Drive, Toronto, Ontario, M1E1C2. And now let us just take a moment to gratefully accept the blessings that have been bestowed. There is one infinite creative power in the universe, one divine energy that is omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. And it is right here where I am, and I am deeply grateful. I'm grateful for this morning. I'm grateful for all of the joy that has been generated. I'm grateful for the wealth that finds its way to the center, and I'm grateful for the journey of all of it. Today is truly a gift and a blessing, and for that I say thank you. It is with grace and gratitude that I release, I let go, and all is well.